welcome back to Ladies' Night. We're glad you're back with us. Little Marion came back too.
She's sleeping right now, but she's been farting, so.
Lots of great things.
So we can't wait to see what she has to contribute. Please don't poop.
So we are going to be talking about laughter tonight, and about just some things that make us laugh, even sometimes how we use laughter, maybe not so great, in a way to maybe hide some of the things that are really going on in our lives, but also just how laughter can bring us joy and everything. So again, thank you for coming. I think we have one more week, and then we'll have to see if we want to make this a monthly gig or what we want to do, and have other people come on with us. We'll see. Okay. So, well, what makes you laugh?
I mean, I'm pretty funny, so I laugh at myself a lot. And maybe not as much. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about laughter a lot today. As a college kid, I was hilarious. And things that happened to me, I could not have scripted. I remember just calling people and telling them about my life. And no, this is real. Things that happened were just really ironic and hilarious. And maybe it's my interpretation of the world, but I thought it was pretty funny. My husband is also really funny. And I don't think he was funny when we first got married, but he's gotten
it's
really
contagious.
Yeah, it must be. Today on the phone with my sister, she was even like, "Wow, Nate, you got a lot of jokes." I've gotten better once quarantine started. I also watch The Office, and you can't not laugh when you watch Steve Carell do anything. That man is hilarious. Just something about his. I'm thinking about it right now. I was watching an episode, he was mad about Toby, and I was just it doesn't matter how many times I watch this episode, it's still funny. So TV gets me to laugh, my family gets me to laugh, my dogs get me to laugh, my students. Middle schoolers are hilarious. They have some non-redeeming qualities too, but man, their sense of humors are starting to develop, and I am so glad I get to be part of molding that, because I gotta be an influencer somehow, so it's definitely their sense of humor. So I think those are the things that make me laugh.
It's funny, you mentioned The Office, and I've never really watched The Office. I know, I've seen spurts of it here and there, but I've never actually watched a full episode. But I do know that there are some points where the character will look at the camera, and there's that awkward, did that just kind of happen type thing or whatever. And so last year, I was with my 8th period class, and 8th period, it does not matter what year it's been, 8th period is the worst period. And I think it's probably the last class of the day,
everyone's
before,
tapped.
yeah, everyone's done. They've had a full morning where they've actually focused, they had lunch, and then the afternoon's just shot. But last year there was, I cannot count on my hand the many times of where I wanted to cry, but I was if I cry, I will not be able to stop. So I'm just gonna laugh at what's happening. Or I would do the Office thing where there was one girl in the class that I know that her and I were thinking the exact same thing all the time. And she was annoyed with the kids as much as I was annoyed with the kids. And something would happen, or I would say something and someone would respond, and it would be a terrible response. Out of the blue, not even related, or it was totally related but not appropriate. And I would look at this girl and she would look at me, and then I'd go back to teaching. And that's every time I would do it, I'm yep, this is literally one of those scenes from The Office.
It's the classroom.
It is, yeah.
That's so funny. Did you and that girl talk about it?
We did.
So
we did.
Exactly
there were different times throughout the year where she was like, "Mrs. Whitney, this is one of those moments again." And then at the end of the year, she brought in a thank you note, talking about how she felt like I cared about her, and she brought me cookies. Aww. Which the week before she had asked me if I was allergic to anything, and I wasn't even thinking of it. I was like, "Yeah, I'm allergic to penicillin," and she was like, "Okay." So then when she brought in the cookies, in her note she said, "P.S. There's no penicillin in these cookies." So that's it made sense. Yeah. That why would she ask if I'm allergic to anything?
Right.
And then it made all sense in the world. You're not gonna put penicillin in cookies. But yeah, so things like that with the classroom, ridiculous.
Yeah. And you do have those certain kids who you just know are getting what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
And you look at them because they realize you just said something, and another kid responds and it's not right. You're like, that wasn't the joke. And so there's always that one kid who looks at you like, I got it.
Yeah. We're on the same wavelength. It's fine. Oh. Other things that make me laugh. So school always in general, like the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to kind of go along with family members too, just like certain family members that are in your clan. Growing up, when my dad and his two brothers get together, they will laugh hysterically about things that you don't know what they're even talking about. And it's really cool to watch them laugh as hard as they do, because I don't see my dad laugh as hard as he does, except for maybe like with Silas now and things like that. But another memory that I have, and on my mom's side, we wouldn't go and see my mom a lot, my mom's side of the family a lot, because we're in the southeast corner of Nebraska is where I was growing up, and my mom's family is in Osmond. And so we would always like come up and visit for Christmas or once during the summer. And I always remember like it would be later in the evening, my Uncle Kevin would come over and we would hang out with Grandma and Uncle Kevin and Mom and everybody. We'd just sit in the kitchen, and my Uncle Kevin would tell the most hilarious stories, like the most hilarious. And I can't even tell you what the stories were about at all. Like, I'm sure they were about things that were in their childhood, or people that he worked with, or, you know, people that they knew at church and things like that. But he would tell the most and it was just, I think, the delivery of the stories too.
Delivery is critical
Right.
with those things. Yeah.
So I like, it pains me that I don't even know what the stories were about, but every time I think about my Uncle Kevin telling these hilarious stories, and my mom's side of the family, they were all hilarious, like all of them. But for some reason, I always, that memory of sitting at Grandma's kitchen table and my Uncle Kevin telling all these stories that were just hilarious. Some of them were probably crude, but it was just, you know, they were just hilarious. And then Silas, if I did not have my son Silas in my life, I don't know where I would be. Now, Eliza did funny things, like cute funny things, like, oh, it's our first daughter, like firstborn, first daughter, like she's so cute, and she'd do funny things. But Silas has really gotten into like his own element, his own personality this last year. So yeah, first year of life, very cute, happy baby, yay. And then this last year, he like, I cannot count the number of times on my hand that throughout just 1 week, he will see Willie, our cat, across the house, and he will be like, Willie, run after him and just fall on top of him. And Willie's like, please get off of me. And he just hugs him so tight. So, and there have been times where he gets a little rough with him, so we have to pull him off. But then the second we let Silas go and Willie has run across the house to find a different place to, you know, hang out. He never hides, which is odd. Like, if he didn't want Silas to catch him, you'd think that he'd hide. But no, then Silas, if he's on a mission, he will find Willie again and he will attack him. So, but it just hilarious things. He likes to make a lot of facial expressions. Sometimes it's mimicking what Stephen and I are doing. But
Yeah,
hilarious
facial
kid.
He is.
All right.
He's funny.
Yeah.
Just walks by and slaps him.
Yep. It was
Like-
did not know the person, stared at him for a long
Stared
time.
at him,
and then
and
walked
everyone-
up to him, hit his arm, and then kept walking. And I was like, "You're so odd, but I love you." Like,
Yeah, he's a funny kid.
and then, like you said, TV shows. So, when I think it was just this last week, we were actually watching Waco. I don't know if you guys have heard.
That's about the
Yeah, so
cult.
it's a Netflix series about a cult that was in Texas. And usually what Stephen and I do is when we get ready for bed, we'll watch a few episodes of Friends and then we'll go to bed. And we were almost done with this series, Waco, and so we were going to watch the last episode. And Stephen said he almost asked if we wanted to go watch it, you know, just since it was really late, like 11 o'clock already. And he was like, well, you know, maybe we should just go to bed and watch the episode in our room. And we decided not to. We watched the rest of it in the living room. And then after it got done, he was like, I'm so glad that we didn't watch that in our bedroom because I needed debriefing. Like, I need those Friends episodes to debrief just because of how traumatic the ending of this, and it's based on a real event too, but how traumatic this experience was for these people. And so then we turned on Friends. And Friends is kind of like The Office for us, where it does not matter how many times you watch that show, you will laugh every time. So
we watched The Outer Banks, and that was kind of intense. In the last 2 episodes, I mean, Nate is pretty good at like being on his phone and watching TV. I think it was the first time I watched him just like,
not
and we finished it, I was like, whew, I need to go watch some Office episodes now, because I'm not going to be able to sleep without that.
Right.
It's like you have to watch something like lighthearted, and Office and New Girl, those are 2 that we just go through.
Right. So, go ahead.
I think for me, I have to say my parents really instilled in us just the joy of laughter. Like, I can hear my dad's laughter in my head all the time. Like, I just know what it sounds like. And my mom, she, bless her heart, can laugh to the point where you wonder if she's, going to have an accident. She just gets rolling. And it's just, so my whole life growing up was all about laughter and just enjoying life and having those moments. And it's not like my parents had it easy, they went through struggles and stuff, but laughter is just something that we always kind of, just, I don't know, it was the thing that kind of helped us get through those really hard times a lot. So, that being said though, I'm trying to think, like, my dad, what I love about my dad is that he can find the randomest things funny. And you're like, why is that funny? But when he gets laughing, so I like watching other people laugh.
Yeah.
Because he gets rolling and then we can't help but laugh, even though we're not sure what Dad's laughing at right now, but we just start. So I love watching other people laugh. I think that is just funny and I can go for it.
And I think maybe partly because when you're laughing, like if you're on a roll, like what you're saying with your dad, there's inhibitions are down. Like it's so genuine, and it's not like you're trying to put on a show or anything. It's just like those feelings are just rolling out of you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, like my kids, definitely, like we always said we should have done it, and we didn't do it. We should have had, well, we did it sometimes at the dry erase board, but we should have just written down the things they would say when they were little. Like Hannah sometimes would come up with some doozies, and we're like, and it just make us laugh so much, and just random things. But now that they're older, like kind of like what you said with your kids, since I have middle schoolers too, like they can just out of nowhere pull some of the funniest lines, and you're like, and I could just die laughing from some of that. But I have to admit, like one of the things that makes me laugh, and my roommate and I, we always felt so guilty for this. So you guys are gonna see my sinful side here. But so my roommate and I, my first college I went to, we both grew up in the Midwest, pretty blue collar family, and so we grew up in the Midwest, but we went to this college that had a lot of people from countries that did not have snow or ice. And so, yes, I will confess that we would sit in our dorm room and laugh at the people falling down.
We would do that.
Ice.
Our first year at Concordia, my friends, we would be sitting in our dorm room. Maybe it was the second year too, because we were on a first level floor our second year, and so we were right near the door, and they would come walking into the dorm and they would fall. It was, it's hard not to laugh. We felt terrible. We felt absolutely terrible for them, because we knew they had never seen this. They were so excited to see the snow, and they talk about it. But then you just watch them walking, and we would just die laughing, talking about how terrible people we were at the same time, but just cracking up. So
I remember going to a track practice once, and we had a girl on the team from Arizona, and she slipped on the ice, and a kid from Wisconsin just kept walking, goes, "We call that ice here." And like, I will never forget. And I just thought it was like, in that moment, we all just like stopped, and he didn't skip a beat, he just didn't even stop, and he just watched her like flounder to try to get up. And it is awful that we're laughing, because she could have been seriously hurt.
Yes,
but we always got track kids who were from Florida and Texas and Arizona and all these places, and we're like, "Welcome to track in the Midwest. We run in the snow. Get ready." Hope you have a winter jacket. Oh, you bought a North Face fleece coat? That'll be real cute.
That was the other thing sometimes.
Didn't know what to wear.
Yeah,
That's what
I always felt so bad.
No,
that
no,
they
if they're wearing that in
shouldn't.
the movies, that means you should not be wearing that.
So yeah, so that was part of, in college, that would always kind of make us laugh quite a bit. And of course, just watching funny things. Our family likes to watch AFB. It's something we watch,
Yeah.
our kids like to watch. And so for us, that's kind of a family-friendly laughing thing that we can have. Don't ask about what our crying thing is. The one time that our whole family was decimated to tears was The Incredible Journey. If you've ever, we talked about this. We've all seen The Incredible Journey with the dogs, and they get separated from their family.
Oh, I don't watch dog movies.
Oh, Homeward Bound.
Oh, Homeward Bound.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I just
So
try to
anyway.
avoid anything with a dog.
Yeah.
Clue, come here.
So we're a family that laughs together. We're also a family that cries together. So
Here's my question for you. Do you laugh at your husband's jokes? Like
it
before
depends
the
if it's
devotions
good.
and
Yes.
stuff? I
If
do.
it's good,
I find them funny.
if it's good, I'll laugh. Like, he cracks me up all the time. I think that was probably the first things that really attracted to me to him was just a sense of humor, especially with my family, background having so much
Yeah.
humor in it. Like, I could not have married a real serious person. Like, it would not have worked out well. So,
He wouldn't be welcome to my family. My dad would have been like, you can leave.
so for the most part, I generally do, but I'm a little bit more used to it.
Or maybe you've heard them before.
Grown, though. The kids grown.
Because they're dad jokes.
I do find that sometimes I'm not laughing at what Nate did. I'm laughing because it's just so like, what? Or it's what I expected
Yeah.
you to say. I'm like, this is.
Yeah.
And so like either it's funny or I'm like, no, that's not funny. And you think it's funny. So I'm laughing at how not funny it is.
Oh, man.
Yes.
But, yeah.
And then I think for laughter, I love where I work. Yes, I work at a library. Obviously, most of you probably know that. But I think what I always want to encourage our library is that it doesn't need to be like ultra quiet and everything. Like I do want the kids to talk, and I miss that so much right now. It's so hard to not hear the kids in our library. But those kids sometimes when they're watching, like, I can't hear it. They have their headphones, but they're watching some YouTube, and this one little guy that comes into our library, and I miss him so much. But man, there's this day, he's got his earphones on, he's watching, I'm sitting at the desk doing my work, and all of a sudden I hear, "It's raining tacos, it's raining tacos." I'm like, what is he saying? He's like, "It's raining tacos," and he is just cracking up, and I'm like, what is going on? So, yes, he introduced me to the "It's Raining Tacos" song, but
Thank
things like
goodness for that.
and then they just roll with laughter, and you have no idea what they're laughing
Right.
at, but they could just roll in laughter, and so those kids crack me up. And story time with kids always cracks me up because
Oh, I can only imagine.
yes, what they can come up with or how they got that from this, you're like, oh, I have no idea. So, but one of the perks of the job is, laughter, where you're trying to laugh inside and not hurt their feelings because they're real serious about it. But
Right.
I have to say, Eliza, what you talk about, one thing she does now that just cracks me up. So all of you who have not seen Eliza, she'll be very happy to announce that she has a new sister.
Yes.
But she'll tell you again
Every
the next time you see her, and again the next time you see her.
Every time. I feel like it has
But Eliza
every
started doing that
time.
thing where everyone's laughing, so she starts laughing.
Oh, yeah.
That is hilarious.
Oh,
And she's like,
man.
ah!
The fake laugh. Yes. Like, and I think she does it because, like, we'll be watching something and we'll be laughing or we'll be talking about something. And then, like, I think she's heard us so much that she wants to be involved in all the laughter. And so it is literally a cackle. Like,
It is.
and I'm like, I look at her and I'm like, why are you laughing so loud? She's like, I don't know. Like, I really hope that people invite her back in with open arms when all of these restrictions are leveled because she needs people that are not me and Steven.
It's just so funny how many times she'll tell you about her.
Yeah, she walked in today. I have a baby. Her name is Marianne. Eliza, I saw you Friday. But she's here.
It's, I just find that hilarious
man.
that she's very excited about it.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, though. I think kids, as they develop humor,
Yeah.
is really funny. They don't know what to
Oh,
laugh
yeah.
at. They don't know what's so funny. And so that, like, that helps develop their
Yeah.
humor. But then, like what you said, when they get to middle school and they're like,
It's a whole new sense
it's
of
like
humor.
their own separate sense
Yeah.
of
Right.
humor is really coming out. And it's
Well,
like, oh.
and they start to pick up on like sarcasm, and there's like
Uh-huh.
dry senses of humor, and there's
Right.
like, and it's not just like all funny Captain Underpants humor. Like,
Right.
Right.
Like
start-
intelligent, almost on the brink of like.
and it is funny when like they start like learning about, like, this is a nerdy thing, but when they start picking up on like my notable author jokes, and I'll say like, "Pour me another cup," and they're like, "That's funny." I'm like, "I know." Like I start to get really excited because they'll be like, or like something will happen like "Stay Gold, Pony Boy," and they're like, "I get it now." Like it's funny when they start to pick up on these like references, and I tell them that's why reading class is so important, because they'll get more jokes.
Yes.
So when someone says, "Don't be an Ophelia," you'll understand. Like, don't go crazy.
Right.
Keep your hair dry.
So I think laughter is just a gift from God.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting. So when we were talking about doing laughter, I had to look up Bible verses on laughter, and it was interesting how many not so great Bible verses there were about laughter. And it was because the laughter that was being done in those situations was a laughter that was hurtful to others. It was a laughing at people who were not well, kind of like falling. I am sorry, yes. But it's kind of like that laughter. So
Chances
God,
are hard they laugh too.
I
hope
mean,
so.
after the fact, like they probably were thinking,
Yes.
how awful did I look when I was falling on the ice? Like, and it was a story that they could tell later.
Exactly. When they went back and said, "Hey, I fell on the
Yeah.
ice," it was probably really important to them. They had that experience.
Right.
So, but a lot of well, actually, it seemed like it was a lot of the
lot of
Bible
them.
verses
Yeah.
were so much about not laughing at people who were or being laughed at in a
Right.
negative way. So there is this negative component to laughter, and
Yeah.
we'll delve into that a little bit. What are some of the negative components to laughter? And I think, like I said, while it was funny to us to see them fall, at the same time, they could have been hurt.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
that would not have been funny.
Right.
And there's other,
Well, and I always think, like, thinking back to my junior high days, like, you always have to deal with being bullied. Not everybody has to deal with being bullied, but, like, my sister and I, we weren't the cool cats in our class.
Cats.
Like, cool cats. We weren't that, like, we weren't worried about it either. Like, we were focused on our classes. We had other friends, like, leading up to that, we were really good friends with like the guys in our class, but a lot of the girls, they had their little cliques, and so purely out of entertaining themselves, I'm sure there were hurtful comments that were made, and I know that there are kids that I teach that go through the same thing, like, oh, they're not wearing the cool clothes, or did you see how they acted at lunch, or man, they're in band and choir and show choir, like how dare they be music geeks, and so with those types of comments, like, people laugh, if you're in your clique, if you're in your group of friends and you're making fun of somebody, like, you don't think twice about laughing about those comments, but I know that there have been students that they hear those comments, and I've dealt with people in my classes crying because of those comments. And so you just have to be careful about how far you take that humor. Is it out of just playfulness, or is it to harm somebody?
Right.
So,
it can have a negative impact on someone's life.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think too, it's so different for every kid. Like, my family, we just tease each other. Like, really, that's all it is. Like,
Yeah.
like Jessica's talking about her dad, and I'm thinking about my dad, and like, anything, literally anything my dad could find to make a joke, he made it a joke. So if I would have been really hurt or upset,
right.
I would have been a very miserable person.
Right.
So like, you learn, and some kids just do have that thicker skin, they get it, they understand, and then there are those kids who And sometimes there will be those kids, I'll say, I know I can say this to you because you won't go home and cry about it later tonight.
Right.
And it's not that I'm being rude or mean, it's just there are certain kids you can kind of like stare at and make a funny joke with, or
Yeah.
you can say something kind of silly to them, and there's other kids you just can't.
Right.
And
Well,
it's
and
a
even
hard
just
line.
like that idea of sarcasm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know a lot of times when we were taking classes, education classes, a lot of the professors would be like, don't use sarcasm with your kids, especially if they're younger, they're not going to get it. And so they might see it as hurtful, and they might try to, they have to defend themselves against that. A lot of kids, like 8th grade, high school, they can get it. They
Yeah.
kind of get it. But there have been times where I've used sarcasm in my class, and it just depends on the student. But there have been some students that are like, I can't believe you just said that. And I'm like, it's out of sarcasm. And then I have to explain myself. And so then it's almost like a check for yourself, like, I just have to be careful about what I say,
Yeah.
because there are some that will get it and some that won't get it.
Right.
So.
And I do think we kind of talked about this. I didn't even think about it until we started, but like, I as an individual use humor all the time to be a wall for other people. My Enneagram's a 3, which means that we're shapeshifters. And so usually when I walk into a room or if I'm presenting to a large group of people, the first thing I'm going to do is find out how I'm going to make them laugh. Because if I make them laugh at me, then they're going to leave and go, Psh, that Cassie, she was
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Right.
But also it's something that I don't like being sad. Like, no one likes being sad.
Right.
But I've also learned that part of my identity is this bubbly personality. So if something bad is happening, chances are high I'm going to make it a joke.
Right.
And it is funny because, I mean, I perfected it. But, like, I do that a lot. I know I'm not the only person. And then looking back, I think as I get older and wiser, I learned that there are things like, okay, this is a real issue. Like, it's okay to be sad about this. But I look back, especially, like, college year Cassie, I didn't take anything seriously. Like, something very sad would happen or something very hard would happen, and I would just shrug it off and make it a joke and make everyone else laugh about it, because that's just how I functioned. And I'm sure I'm not the only person in America who does that, but if I am, that's pretty funny.
I highly doubt it.
Right.
I think laughter is one of those things that we can use to kind of shield ourselves sometimes from the pain and the hurt that maybe we're feeling, which is fine and good. And sometimes, thankfully, that it helps get us out of that funk.
Yeah.
So we can actually think about what's hurting us in a little bit more logical way, I guess you could say. But at the same time, when we're not being real with people,
Yeah.
and not telling people or not being honest with people and using that laughter sometimes, that's hard.
And I think that's, for me, we talked about it, vulnerability is like my weakness of all time. I hate being vulnerable. The words made me get hives since I was 18. And even Nate and I were talking about how just in general, like in the last couple of years, like I've had to be vulnerable with him. And I'm like, this is...
Because you're married.
And he's like, this isn't a joke. I'm like, it can be. And he's like, no, we're not making it a bit right now, Cassie. Like,
Yeah.
and it just kind of, but I do think there's a lot of people who sometimes take it and like, well, again, I'm going to make light of the situation. That's an important life skill to learn too. Like,
Right.
certain things
Right.
aren't worth our tears. And I sometimes have to explain that to middle schoolers. And I think that's what made me like, why are you crying? Like, a character in your book died? Oh, okay. Why don't you go wash your face? Like, I've been saying that for a long time. And I always tell my moms of middle schoolers when they come in, there's a lot of emotions that we're still working through. And like, you gotta teach them how to work through those things. But there are times where
Right.
it is easier to make someone laugh at me than someone be like, I'm sorry, because I'd rather you just think I'm funny.
That's
Or
one-
even, well, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say what you're saying about the emotions. If you don't have a middle schooler, if you're
Come to
at
my
that
class.
point, sometimes the
Sometimes
hardest
it is
thing
funny.
for me is they'll be crying and I'll be laughing and I feel
Oh.
terrible.
But is it, and this is what I was gonna say kind of after that, like, is it because you're uncomfortable in this? Like, I feel like sometimes I laugh because I'm uncomfortable in this situation. So like, if
Tell me
there
a
is,
story about that.
if there is somebody in the corner crying about a character dying and you're like, I don't know how to deal with this, like, you might be laughing because you're uncomfortable, like, how did I get myself in this situation and how can I turn this around?
Well, I think sometimes too, you're thinking to yourself, it's so much, and now I understand probably why my mom laughed at all the stuff I said, because
It's so-
hindsight being 20/20,
Right.
like this is not the bit, like, and some of these middle schoolers come in and their hearts are just broken about whatever the case may be. And you're like, well, and some of these kids do deal with very big issues, but some of them it's like,
I broke up with my 3-week boyfriend, and you're like,
I
oh,
did
honey.
get someone's scrunchie.
yeah, and you're
I
like,
rejected my scrunchie.
and you're like trying so hard to like synthesize, and so I spend half my time like
Yeah, covering up.
covering my mouth. I'm like, so what I hear you're saying is like, and then I'm like, and like I will like be going home like, and then this happened, like, because it's to them it is like earth shattering. To you, you're like,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I usually do say to them, I promise in 5 years you will laugh about this.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Learning
whatever,
experience.
like this was just gonna be funny. It's gonna, like, think about something that you thought was really bad in second grade. You got it? Okay. Is it funny now? And usually like, yeah. I'm like, okay. This too shall pass. Like, and there are, again, we do get big issues that come in, and you have to like, that's not funny. And there have been kids I've sat there and they're crying. I'm like, I'm trying not to cry too.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're dealing with a really big adult thing, but there are things, the scrunchy debacle of 2020, or like,
I didn't even know what you guys were talking. Like, people would say like the scrunchy stuff, and like I went
it not
home,
Norfolk?
like no,
That
not
was
that
a
I
big
have
deal.
heard, but like I went home and Steven was like, oh, let me tell you. And I was like, oh my goodness.
And
I
they're-
go, thank goodness Norfolk hasn't gotten this.
and they're just things. It is, and sometimes,
Yes.
yeah, you do just laugh because you're like,
So my parents will tell you, or my children will tell you, I'm a little bit of a horrible parent sometimes when they're in tears over a situation. There are times when I just can't help but laugh, and I feel terrible. Our youngest is a very emotional, sensitive child, and I love her dearly, but she is the opposite of me in that way.
Right.
And so there's things that she can blow up to be like huge.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this really isn't that big right now, you know? Yes, your sandal broke, but it's okay. Like,
yeah,
it'll be all right. It is okay. And I think even toddlers, I've seen them, you know, and even younger, like kindergarten. So this is why teachers deserve, you know, I can't imagine the things that
Oh, man.
kids do during the day, and you're just like, whoa. But at the same time, you know, I should be more empathetic with them, and, you know.
yeah, you try to be, but after like the 400th time, you're like, I can't. I'm sorry. Say that again. Like,
Well, there's a lot of times I like something will happen at home with Eliza and she'll cry about, you know,
Yes.
and I'm like, the next day I go to school, I'm like, guys, I gotta tell you this story.
the day she got herself locked in the dog crate is forever. Like she was very sad. She's like, help! And we were like, she's locked in the dog crate right now. She locked herself in the dog crate.
Yep.
Oh,
And there are things, and I am sure, you know, and you don't realize what you're, but
yeah.
I do think sometimes though too, I'm so thankful my parents did teach me to kind of laugh things off. And my dad is funny. I'll never forget, I left a pair of sweatpants at the school locker room, and I was pretty convinced they were gonna be stolen. And my dad was like, this is not worth us being exhausted about. So what's my dad do? He shoves a pencil up his nose. And like, he's like, Cass, come on, tell me again. And I'm like, stop it. Like, but they just taught us at a young age to like, there's some things you can't control. You can't
Yeah.
control if that person steals your sweatpants and that you were not intelligent enough to put them in your bag. Stop rushing, Cassie. It's still an issue. Or you can't control these things. But you can just say, you know what? I tried really hard and it just didn't quite work out the way.
Yeah.
He did that for a long time in high school. That was his thing. Like if I was getting emotional, he'd just shove a pencil up his nose. And like, why? Well, what adult does that? But you know what? Everything that seemed sad, you can't look at a man and be like, you know what? You're right, Dad. In retrospect, this isn't that bad. You are shoving pencils up your nose and you're in your 40s.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's a merit to that, I think, sometimes too, learning to laugh something off and learning that. Because some people, I think, I see it a lot, some kids take themselves very seriously. And I have never taken myself seriously, not for a moment. Like, except for maybe like occasionally, and it's like weird, and I'm like snap out of it real fast. But like some kids, to an extent where they feel like they can't mess up, and nothing can be a joke, and it's okay to be a little embarrassed, and it's okay to laugh at yourself. I think and I am thankful my parents were like, I was the butt of every joke. Legitimately. Like, I just got teased relentlessly. And my dad's like, and she just laughs about it, we move on. Yep, here we are. I'm 29 and they still make fun of me. I fell a lot, always fell. I don't understand. I ran into a car once, it was very embarrassing. And my dad just was like, get up, this is embarrassing. And then we laugh about it, like, it's fine.
That
cool.
leads to some of what the positive parts of laughter are and why God has blessed us with this gift of laughter. I meant to look up, I know there's been studies done, I read a few of them, but what laughter does for us physically and how it releases, I believe it releases endorphins, and it just releases
Basically an ab workout.
good,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great ab workout. And it's just a wonderful kind of taking some of that hard stuff and making it light for us. I know sometimes when I'm really sad or focused on something that's not so happy, that I really appreciate the fact that I can turn on, well, for me, I get snagged into those YouTube, like watching those clips and like all those clips of those funny things, and I feel better afterwards. So it's really good. So turning to our scriptures and what God has to say, I chose Psalm 126, and it says, "When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. Then our mouth was filled with laughter, and our tongue with shouts of joy. Then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us. We are glad. Restore our fortunes, O Lord, like streams in the Negeb. Those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy. He who goes out weeping, bearing the seed for sowing, shall come home with shouts of joy, bringing his sheaves with him." And I know we talked about joy earlier on in an episode, but for me, that's what laughter represents. It represents joy. And I had a really rough week last week. It's just, and I think we're all at that point where we're kind of done with this COVID. But unfortunately, sometimes what's coming out is people's frustration.
Yeah.
And sometimes that frustration can be angled at you. And that's hard to take sometimes, especially people that you really look up to and admire. But at the same time, knowing that they are frustrated, that they've been through this time of sorrow, that it's been hard. It's been hard going through this stuff. And so what this really, when I was looking at verses about laughter, I thought, wow, that's really applicable to me right now because, we've all been through a tough time. Life has been upturned for some more than others, but it has been rough and we are frustrated. We want things to open and go back to normal, but we know they're not. And it's easy, especially to think that those people who are in leadership or those people who are over things are taking things away from us or whatnot, and they're not. And so it's easy sometimes to let that frustration out on them. And I know for me, I see it both ways, being on both parts of it, frustration that why did it take Starbucks so long to open? But at the same time,
The line's so long now.
but you have to be socially distanced. And at the same time, though, realizing that people are doing what's best, so trying to make sure that we're safe and to be a person who has to make those decisions that you don't want to be the one who makes this decision and then someone gets really sick and dies.
Yeah.
And so that's weighing on everyone's mind. So for me, reading this verse, it's like, wow, we've been through this time of sorrow, but we will reap joy. We will reap, if we continue on faithfully serving God through this, doing what He's given us to do, we can reap joy and we can reap laughter. There is laughter that comes after all of this and joy. And I look forward to the day when we're together again at church and laughing at maybe one of Pastor's bad jokes, I don't know. But laughing.
Or that kid in the pew who just can't behave.
Yes.
He will not. He will be running up and down the aisles, I'm telling you. There's no way.
And what joy that's going to bring, I think, at the childcare now that it's open again. I'm sure they've had many times of laughter there. And when you guys get your students back,
Oh, we're going to laugh so hard.
and it's going to be fun to laugh.
Evil
and,
laughs and happy laughs.
And when my little guy comes back to the library and starts singing Raining Tacos or just starts laughing at something, like what joy that will be after all of this hopefully is over. And even if it's not over completely, it is still, there's laughter and there's joy after the storm. So that's what I got from Psalm 126.
And I turn to Proverbs 17:22. A merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. And I think that does kind of tie in with frustration part. Like, I know we are all frustrated, whether it's, trying to keep the best interests of people at heart, or frustrated that we're not opening the church doors yet, frustrated that we can't go on our vacations, or we can't play baseball or softball. I know that was a big concern of a lot of my family members, of when can we get out on the baseball field again. But knowing that, I mean, even if, this lasts a little bit longer, it's not healthy to go in with that negative attitude. And like it says, but a broken spirit dries the bones. If you're always focusing on that negative, you're missing out on some of those positives. And so a merry heart does good. Just keeping in mind, there's still plenty of blessings that you have in your life. It might not be the things of your choice. So you're like, that first choice might be, I want those doors of the church open. Or your first choice might be, I just want to get back to work. Like I was telling the ladies before we started, this week for Norfolk, they were supposed to have school with the kids. They called it off a week early for the kids, so they had the kids last day last Thursday, and then this week is just building curriculum. And so going into the meeting this morning, I was a little hesitant, just because it's okay, I had to come out of maternity leave early. I wasn't planning on coming into this, to work this week. And so that was a little frustrating. But then also seeing my other English teachers that I haven't been able to see. And then it was weird, I'm sure those other English teachers are I just want to be done. I just want to be done with the school year. Yeah. But it was actually I felt invigorated. I was oh, all right, let's get this curriculum planned for next year. Whereas I'm sure the other teachers were I just want to be done. and I get their side of it too. But it was just so nice to be in the Zoom meetings today and just laugh with them. Mm-hmm. And I think that was trying to get my mind ready for the recording for today. It was just okay, this is just something that I needed to laugh with my staff, my coworkers. And so I think that's just kind of what you if something happens, you weren't intending it to happen, you wanted a different outcome, you almost just have to laugh at it at times. I mean, it's not the ideal situation we're in, but if you still have family members that you love that you're able to go home to every day, and I know maybe some of us haven't left our houses, so you never are leaving those family members. But for me to listen to the same story that Eliza has told me over and over again, I will, that she has a new baby sister, I will, when I get ready for bed at night, I will laugh about how ridiculous she was, but she's my baby and I love her. And Silas running after Willie and tackling him, that is something I will laugh at when it happens, and I will laugh about it later. Or when Marion eats and her eyes are bigger than her stomach and she throws up all over me. In that moment, I'm thinking, I have to go change my shirt now. That is so frustrating. Or I could think, you know what? You eat as much as you want. You can puke on me, I will deal with it. No one's there to see me anyway. I can smell like that sour milk all day because I don't take showers every day. So
hashtag mom life.
Yeah, I know. So you just have to think to yourself, I just need that merry heart. I don't need that spirit that's going to dry up my bones.
I like that, dry up bones.
So here's a funny story. That was my sister's confirmation verse.
Really?
And my dad was unemployed.
Oh.
When we were in 8th grade, when she was in 8th grade getting confirmed. And he had a job at that point, but in the recession, a lot of people in Detroit were hurt. Right. And so my sister was reflecting on that when she had to give her faith testimony.
Oh no.
And so she comes in and my dad really goes, you can't say this. And he's rewriting her speech before she has to go up because he didn't want anyone to ever know he was ever unemployed. And I just remember her crying and crying. And now it's hilarious when you how ironic is it that my dad was no, you can't say these things. Again, this man shoved pencils up his nose for fun. And I'll never forget sitting there and my mom's friend's Dad, you're being a jerk. Don't do it. And he's just let her go say what you need to say. He's she's not going to say this. And I'll never forget him frantically rewriting her speech. Oh,
I gotta fix this.
Anyway, so the verse I chose, I wanted to be super basic. So I chose Proverbs 31, verse 25. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she can laugh at the days to come. And I think this is not COVID related, but like I said, things that happen in my life probably could not be written down. Like, us moving to Battle Creek is like still hilarious to me. And like, we cried all the time. I cried when I moved to Seymour. I was in an airport in Kansas City. I was like, I was on the phone with the friends, like, I don't want to move to the middle of nowhere. And they're like, it's fine. I'm like, it's easy for you to say, you live in Hawaii. Like, and I think about that. I think about Battle Creek and Nate. We kind of, when we first got here, we're like, hard pass. And then like something must have clicked in both of us that this wasn't a bad idea. And I'll never forget us driving into Battle Creek, and all of a sudden Nate just starts like crying, laughing. Somebody's like, you have found the world's smallest town to live in.
I don't know.
And so
Stella,
you have to
Nebraska
remember
is the smallest town you can live in.
that I grew up in like a metropolitan area. Like, I can get to 4 different Kohl's in 20 minutes. And there's a Starbucks on every corner. And I thought Seymour was the middle of nowhere, and Seymour's the size of Norfolk. And Nate just cried. And my brother moved to Indianola, Iowa, which was a smaller town. And I was like, it's smaller than Seymour. He's like, and now you're moving me to Battle Creek. And I'll never forget us both laughing about it. Like, it was so sad, but it's so funny at the same time. And I think there is merit to knowing that our future isn't in our hands. I can make all the plans I want, and I'm a planner.
Right.
I'm a big planner. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But at the same time, I just can't help but laugh at some of the things that God has done. And God does have a sense of humor. I mean, he invented giraffes. And that's a funny looking creature. And the narwhal. But like, and I always felt like God understood I had a good sense of humor, so he gave me the most humorous experiences. But and looking back, those moments where I did just break down crying, and again, that was like really bad. Like 18 to 23-year-old Cassie cried a lot. She was just so emotionally distraught on everything.
There's so many transitions.
And there's just a lot of transitions. Transitioning from your parents, transitioning into adulthood, what is taxes? I don't know. But I just think about all those things and just that idea of, God tells us not to worry. He tells the birds, don't worry, we shouldn't worry. And when those things do come your way and God says, go to Battle Creek, Nebraska, you do just need to laugh. Just as much as I laughed when my dad, I'll never forget another moment. We were pulling out of Seymour. We just drove from Phoenix, Arizona to Seymour, Indiana. And my school wasn't in the city, it was in cornfields. There were literally cows across the road. And the children would come out of the cornfield if the football went too far. It was very scary. And I'll never forget driving away from that school, and my dad's like, there's a little house in the big woods out there. And he's like, you just moved from Phoenix, Arizona to a little house on the prairie. I'm glad you read those books as a kid, because you always said Lower Eagles Wilder had it going on. And
now it came and bit you back.
And
bit you in
yeah,
the
my mom always says, there it is. And she always jokes around about, I wanted to live in Stars Hollow. She's like, this is Stars Hollow. I'm like, this is not Stars Hollow. Where's the gazebo? Where is the diner, Mom? And like, but it's just that humor that I can't take it too seriously, because the plan's already set in stone. If I'm going to do those things I set out to do, great. And I think I find with my sister-in-law, they're starting off that phase of your life that going into the workforce, that is a scary time. Yeah. And I remember saying to my sister-in-law, you can't make a wrong choice, and you got to rest assured knowing that God already knows the location you're going to. And one day you probably, again, like I say to those kids, you're going to look back and you're going to really think this is funny. And just laughing at what's to come, because you can't control it. Mm-hmm. You got to kind of roll with the punches. You can't take yourself too seriously. Because people who take themselves too seriously get wrinkles way earlier in life.
Well, and like you say, you can't really plan for things. And so kind of going back to my Uncle Kevin I was talking about earlier, you know, he's had brain cancer. He's had, I think, at least 2, maybe 3. My mom will probably correct me now. She'll watch this Thursday night and call me up and tell me. But even going through that, and it's been man, I don't know how many years, 8, 10. It's been a long time where he's had to deal with that. He hasn't lost his humor. Like, I'm sure there have been scary moments for him, and maybe he covered up some of those moments with humor, but still the funniest guy I know. And so you just have to, not to say accept the hand that's been given to you, but, you know, turn it around and try to make it where you're not going to dwell on those bad things. And
there's a nugget of humor in everything.
Right.
I love going to the doctor. My goal is to make them laugh by the time I leave. They're like, what? I'm like, it's okay. They're like, okay.
Well, you don't want to walk around as a grouch either,
No.
you know?
Again, that's how you get those bad wrinkles.
Wrinkles,
I want them by my eyes, not my face.
Well, and like, I had told my husband last week, and I texted you guys this too, I feel like my face hurts after every time we get done recording and we, like, I go home after these sessions because I've been laughing so much and smiling so much more than I probably have been throughout the rest of the week. He's like, Stephen was like, you're just not using those muscles in your face like as much, you know, and so just, you know, those blessings, you have to find those blessings.
Right. And I think during this time where we are just all, our fuses are short now, like this, like quarantine, I said to Nate, remember this was supposed to be 2 weeks? Like, I thought it was gonna be 2 weeks, like, get a little vacation, get some
I remember
tan.
thinking the fact they were sending textbooks home with our kids
Was
was a little
crazy.
overkill.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, gosh.
Yeah, and I think about, and now like think about that, that is funny, like, wow, this will take 2 weeks and we'll be back to normal. Plot twist. But I just
Right.
think during these moments you do have to find those things that make you laugh, whether it is a TV show like The Office or Friends or
the
America's
fact
Funniest
that-
Home
Or the
Videos.
fact that you don't shower every day,
Yeah.
every other
Oh my
day,
gosh,
or-
I am disgusted by myself some days. Like, I went to take a shower, I was like, oh my gosh, my hair like stayed in a messy bun when I took the ponytail out. That's disgusting. But like finding those things, whether it's the people
Yeah.
you live with or things that bring you joy,
Right.
and just laughing about it, because there's got to be something funny in your day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or just tell yourself a funny story. Or
Make
call
up
me.
a story.
I will make you laugh. I promise. Give me
She
a call.
will.
I can. My goal is finding something to make everyone laugh. Because if I don't have you laughing, that means you probably don't like me.
Well, we hope you've laughed through this. Hopefully you found some joy through this, and we thank you for tuning in as always.
Yep.
Like I said, we have one more week, and then we'll kind of go from there as
Final
we,
countdown.
our swan song, is that right?
Man, yeah.
Is that what swan song is?
I think
I'm
so.
terrible.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Sounds
so-
good.
Yeah. So we'll see what the topic is and stuff, probably talking about family and everything. But we hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you get to laugh a lot this week, and we will see you later.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye, friends.